Welcome to the Necronama.com. You may recall that in October of 2020, we were dumb enough to sit down and go over 31 episodes of the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. We dropped an episode every single day that October. I never want to make that mistake again. Luckily for us, they only release one, maybe two a year. Which brings us to today's discussion, where we're going to look at the Treehouse of Horror 33 from October 30th, 2022. And maybe the episode a week before that wasn't really a Treehouse episode, but it was about Stephen King's It, so how can we ignore it? Anyway, welcome to this clusterfuck. It is 2022, and I'm still James Sabata.
Oh, it's my line? I'm new at this. I'm Don Guillory, and I'm still me.
And Thomas, are you still Thomas?
I'm still Thomas. I'm tempted to mute myself just so I can sleep through this episode.
I thought you already slept through this episode.
I slept through the Treehouse of Horror episode twice. I wasn't even tired either time. It lulled me to sleep. So
let me just start by saying this is season 34. So the Simpsons have been on TV for over a third of a century.
Yep.
And it's showing. Okay? And the only thing worse than that is I was like 10 when I started watching it.
They have the Roman numerals, and my daughter rewatched it with me today. And when she saw it, the description was like, XXIII. I was like, yes, 33. She's like, that's a lot of X's. And I immediately told her, I'm like, I skipped any jokes because she's not old enough for any of those jokes.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Are you talking about the Vin Diesel movie Triple X?
No.
Are you talking about my many porn tabs?
No.
You're talking about the moonshine you have in your still in the backyard?
Damn it, you. No, I saw that and I was like, fuck, I'm old. Like, how did we get to this many seasons of The Simpsons? I don't know. I feel as though, not that it's gotten old. I think the issue is, I think that they've enjoyed the idea of parody so much where it kind of lost the charm.
Yeah, it's really long running. It's like a soap opera at this point. But even like General Hospital and Days of Our Lives maintain like logical storylines, right? Like The Simpsons has not done that. But yeah, I was thinking the same thing while watching this, where it's like the old Treehouse of Horrors are great because they're like riffing on classic horror movies. Now they're just riffing on current horror stuff. And it's just, if you haven't seen it, then you really don't understand what's going on. Like me in the second act of Treehouse of Horror, where I fell asleep. I fell asleep twice, but...
Lucky for you, I am the resident expert on Death Note, and we'll get there.
But yeah, I just feel like I don't know. They really kind of, for me, I know we're far removed from doing all of the episodes, so I can't remember which ones we hated. I remember like episode 24 we hated, but I think I might have hated this one more. Like it just felt like it really lost its way. Especially because the week before they did a Treehouse of Horror Presents that was much more succinct and made more sense, even though that also wasn't terribly great. But, it happens.
Apparently the trick to that was getting high first and then watching it, because I thought it was hilarious. But I want to do these out of order. I want to do Treehouse first and then come back to Not It, because I want to end on a middle note. I won't say a high note, but it's got to be better than what we're going to say about this other episode.
Yeah, I want to end on the one that actually had King and Kodos in it.
Yeah, right? That was weird. The first thing I want to say is I did not have couch gags. I don't know if there weren't any.
There was not any, yeah.
Okay, because I went to this bootleg site, fox.com, to watch it. and I was like, where the fuck are the couch gags? I didn't have one in either one. Like, Not It just opened with Barney coming out, and Treehouse just immediately jumped into the Babadook word for word, scene for scene thing they did. So
I think that the acts were so long running they couldn't bear to cut any of it to include a couch gag.
They really should have.
Yes.
It's been so long and I didn't go back. I don't know how we used to do these. So I apologize to anybody that's expecting this to be coherent and run in the same way as the others.
Just like Treehouse of Horror. It doesn't make any fucking sense anymore.
That's right. Exactly. Somehow this episode just left me really baffled because, like you said, you know, they keep trying to do new horror stuff, which is cool, but like, is your main audience watching this stuff? No. Like, I say that as somebody who watches all of this stuff. I don't understand who this is supposed to be for. And I know so many fucking horror writers who would kill to write a segment of the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. Please just throw us money. Fuck, I'll do it for the credit. Let me write a goddamn Treehouse of Horror, please.
Maybe that's what we should do after we talk about everything. Give our pitches for what we would do for a Treehouse of Horror act.
I can't give that away. I'm trying to get free credits from them, apparently. At the rate that the
I'll
animation
just take
takes,
Disney
my
passes.
my episode will air in season 47 after I'm already dead.
Perfect.
So... But no, it really does baffle me. The Babadook, I know we normally do like the summary thing. I don't even think it's necessary. Like, this is so the Babadook. There's no creativity here. It's just recast with The Simpsons, and then it's done in like 10 minutes and still somehow feels really long. And I mean, I rewatched the Babadook after watching this. And stuff was semi-funny to me. Like, I'd forgotten they really burned the book on the grill, you know, in the movie. And so that kind of stuff became funnier than when I watched it. But it was like, I've seen this movie like 4 times. And if I don't remember this shit, who is this joke for?
It's for that really obscure Babadook fan. I mean, they could have parodied Bye Bye Man. You would have had the same crowd or the same number of people that knew it so specifically to where it, like, oh my God, that's the red thread that represents, you know, Carlos's childhood. You know, like, fuck. Like,
it would have at least felt fresh. It would have felt way more fresh than this.
Fresh would be a good one for them to parody.
Oh, the movie
Lord.
Fresh.
They already did Homer eating himself. All right.
No. But this is a different thing. You got Mr. Burns is, I don't know, hoarding people and decides that he's going to engage in this type of thing because the greatest food out there is human flesh. I don't know.
What if somebody's listening to this, which is low odds, I know, but what if somebody's listening to this and now we've ruined the movie Fresh? Thomas, what were you going to say?
I only wrote down 2 things for this episode. One, for this act, they call it the POOKADOOK, but I kept writing POOPADOOK because this episode was poop to me. But the scariest
fact
thing,
that you call it POOKADOOK tells me you're not ready.
the scariest part of this whole episode is Marge's voice. She sounds fucking terrible.
I mean, it's been on the air for 150 years.
They did include something that stuck out to me a little bit more. Like, I picked up on it the first time I watched it. Second time I watched it, it stood out even more because it wasn't just a gag that was part of the parody. It was something that was more reflective, and that was, you get to see how Marge is just taken advantage of. So, I mean, you could look at it in a bunch of different ways as far as looking at how Marge is taken advantage of or not included or never gets to enjoy in the fun and that stress just builds up. Or you could look at it as traditionally the way that a house spouse would feel as though they're unappreciated. Which I think the message is there. It's just not, it's not one that you should have built the Babadook around or even included in this. Like, there's some other things you could have done.
Every
like,
Marge storyline is about her not being appreciated, not or regular episode. It's not special. It's not special. Yeah.
You could do this episode with Lisa as well, or maybe even Bart, because there would be something there. I mean, I guess not with Bart because nobody really noticed that he's doing anything dangerous or violent. But it would be the same thing with Lisa, where she's not appreciated or she's not the center of attention, and because she's doing so great in school and music and all these other things, she doesn't get the attention that Bart would get, like in a previous episode, like Bart would get when he got a good grade. And the explanation that goes along with that of like, you don't need that attention when you do good because you always do good. Here he's doing something good for a change, and we want to foster that a little bit more. We want to make sure that he continues on.
That makes me want to see a whole episode where Bart is the good child and Lisa is the rebel. The POOKADOOK was fine, I guess. It was just, I didn't understand the point of it. Like, they weren't bringing anything to it. There wasn't anything new. It was my least favorite segment.
But to compare this to the Not It episode, it seems as though a lot more thought went into Not It, to where Treehouse of Horror should just be one long episode. I mean, at this point, it should be one long episode, or you go back to having the bookend stories.
Hey, Thomas, what would you think if what they did instead would be to go back to like when Willie was Freddy and do like Freddy Returns or like something like that, like some sequels of past ones? Would you
Yeah, I mean, I'd be completely fine with callbacks to, you know, previous horror movies they've already done to do the sequel, which is probably what's going to happen with. They'll do another It episode, right? Like they kind of have to, because it's the only thing that worked this year.
Let's jump into Death Tome. And I know neither of you have seen Death Note, so as the resident expert, I watched a 7-minute YouTube video summarizing all 37 episodes. And so I feel qualified to tell you that they also just copied everything, but they put a little more creativity into it. So there you go. Like the overall story is the same. There's really a detective named L, and the main character can't kill L because he doesn't know the person's full name. But this brings me to my first complaint about Death Tome, which is that Lisa doesn't know Jailbird's name. She just writes Jailbird, and he fucking dies. But then in the same episode, which is less than 10 minutes, I might add, she is unable to just kill L because she doesn't know his name and has to figure it out. And it's explained to her that she can't do this without the name. And so I was just really angry once this hit. I was just off. I did like the swerve with El Barto, like using L and turning it into El Barto. That was kind of fun. And I really enjoyed the animation style. That's all I got. What do you guys got?
Oh, I hated it. I fell asleep twice, and I didn't like the animation style at all. And the only note I wrote was, "I hate this." Oh no! I also quoted Bart when he said, "So now you're just trying to bore me to death," which is how I felt about this episode.
That's fantastic.
You two are horrible. Now, with that in mind, this is what I'm going to say.
Donald Trump.
I would have run out of fucking paper. I mean, with the Shinigami, with Steve Johnson, the Shinigami coming up and saying, "Oh,
Steve Johnson was hilarious."
Yes.
That's my favorite joke in here.
You know, talking about it being addictive, or as, you know, he pulls up, it's like, "Oh, it's as addictive as plastic surgery." Oh, have you had work? No, not me. No. I wonder, I mean, does the paper refill? I mean, does the notebook refill, or is it one of these things where you write the name down and it disappears, James? I mean, you said you watched it.
Well, I watched a summary, yes. I don't think they covered that. That's a great question, because otherwise you're just carrying around a book of evidence. Not
necessarily, because if somebody finds it, I was just writing down how all these people died.
Yeah, maybe.
You know?
You're dumb and you're dating everything.
Yeah. Yeah, and then leaving, you know, hiding classified documents in your...
Well, this girl was so dumb she was writing about it in her diary. So I can't trust her not to write dates next to stuff.
But it's Lisa. And since it is Lisa, I will ask this to the two of you, and no, I will not avoid this question.
Donald Trump.
Would you do this knowing the power that it had, or at least the idea of you actually are killing them? You're responsible for their death.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No question.
Any excuse to kill somebody. What?
Yeah, see?
All right. And James,
when we were in Santa Cruz, Thomas killed somebody just to get a corn dog. So I believe that.
God damn it.
It was, to be fair,
Was it a good corn dog?
it was a jumbo corn dog.
That's true. All right, what's your question?
Well, the follow-up was, if you do, who would it be? But you already said you would, so who would it be?
I mean, I think at this point, like, I would consider myself a vigilante and do a lot of bad things. So, I mean, I think that the list gets me banned from Twitter. It gets me like, I just be in a lot of trouble with the government. So, I probably
Don,
shouldn't name names.
let me tell you a story. The other day, my water heater broke. Okay, and it broke me in the process of, 4 trips to Home Depot, installing a new one, and it's tankless, so it's not very straightforward. Anyways, at that moment in time, I was ready to murder the next person who looked at me, so it really doesn't matter to me.
Don, is there anybody that you could name that wouldn't get you in trouble?
Yeah, where's this going, Don? Do you have somebody you want to kill?
Oh, we all do. I mean, whether people want to admit it or not, we all have someone that we would not mind disappearing. Since Twitter has changed ownership,
we interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Unfortunately, we had to cut this entire part because everything Don said would have gotten us in a lot of trouble.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
it would be the person who has fucked up my Twitter feed. I would give him an ironic death in the Notebook or the Death Tome. The Notebook.
Oh yeah, we're talking about the Simpsons.
The Death Book or Death
The
Tome.
what now?
I would have him successfully make it to Mars, right? But then he gets, I don't know, crushed by a Tesla on Mars. Remember that Tesla he launched into space because he fucking could?
That was kind of cool.
I would have that Tesla go out of orbit, land on top of him on Mars. Make it ridiculously ironic for him to die that way.
With him being probed by King and Kodos. How about that?
So, because I didn't know anything about Westworld, this was an interesting concept to me with terrible execution, wasted 18 minutes or less.
I mean, I genuinely like the first 2 seasons of Westworld, and the story of this episode is pretty much the first season of Westworld, so spoilers for James, but I didn't like it. I mean, it was just, to me, like this really cheap nostalgia play where they're showing a bunch of clips from the first 10 seasons to make people like us be like, I remember that, you know, and I didn't think it was very effective.
See, I couldn't decide if they were only showing from the good seasons or if I just didn't understand the others.
It was definitely mostly from the good seasons.
I'm going to jump Springfield Gorge.
I'm king of the world, yeah. The beginning when they're on the monorail is the old animation from that episode, and then it transitions to like the new animation. So for that brief 10 seconds, I was happy, which was a mistake because I should know by now that I should never feel joy because it just gets taken away from you right away by Marge and Lisa's awful new voices.
I did enjoy how they said, oh, you can't kill humans. And so they had Homer just like stumble around and run into stuff, and then that killed humans. And that was the most creative thing I saw in this episode. I
hated all the meme work with the hedges and Grandpa yelling at the cloud. I thought that was cheap. I just thought the one thing I did enjoy was the Canyonero song, because I've always enjoyed Canyonero. You can't fight that. You know, you can't fight how great that is. I also liked that the staff of Simpsons World had 5 fingers. You know, that's fun.
I didn't notice that. That's great.
Don, what did you think?
I thought it was okay. And the thing is, I've gone to watching these episodes, even when we did our, I guess, the 32 or 31 that were up there, when we did this 2 years ago. Or was the last? Shit, I can't remember. I can't remember. But no, I turned to watching it with my daughter and kind of gauging her reaction from it. So for her, mind you, we're tired of it. I mean, to speak for the three of us.
The show or your daughter?
No, Jesus Christ. No, I've never tired of my kid. But no, the whole idea that I think we've just gotten tired of those episodes or at least the Halloween episodes, because we've seen so much good, but so much bad at the same time, to where it's kind of like they need to give something really good in the next season or the season after that for there even to be a reason to keep doing this. But anyway, when I was watching it with her, she thought it was funny because of basically just the gags. Which, for me, I kind of looked at it, I was like, okay, well, she's seen them through a different lens. They've seen them through different eyes. So, of course, this works for her. I mean, she's 8, I'm 44. But when it came to this, I mean, she didn't get into the Westworld references. But when it came to the ending of the twist at the end, she thought it was even funnier. Just this whole idea that you can never escape that system. Like, you're not going to get away from it. You might get away from your own reality, but you're going to enter somebody else's. So really, the only questions I have with this, not necessarily the worlds that are displayed, but what fandom or what world would you want to enter?
I would like to go to Arrested Development world where I get to also live in one of the model houses just down the street.
I like that. That's funny. I mean, Simpsons World sounds fun. Like, I enjoy like the Springfield like part of Universal Studios, so I feel like Simpsons World would be a cool thing to see. I just thought, in this episode, I just wasn't terribly interested in it because I'm not there.
I think that's fair. Super Mario World.
I'd like to go to Jurassic Park.
It was nice knowing you.
Well, it's going to screw it up for the rest of us. I mean, that's what I learned from the third movie, and I don't mean the plot. I mean, just watching that movie will screw up everything for you.
Where would you go, Don?
Oof. Let's see. As far as fandoms, I would say Tarantino, but there would be feet everywhere.
Oh God.
Which I hear he's a big fan of Game of Thrones now. Thomas knows what I'm talking about.
I do. Yeah.
What would actually be fun, James? I can't speak for Thomas because I don't know his feelings on this, but I wouldn't mind like a WWE WWF world. Since they own all. No, what I mean as far as like you can walk up and you get like they've got a ring or something like, so there's like a different era. So there's like the golden era, and then there's the whatever it was called in the 80s, then there's the attitude era, ruthless. So you go to each one of those places, right? As opposed to like going through Peacock and looking at old matches and old pay-per-views, you can go there and sit ringside for when, I don't know, monumental moments like Hulk Hogan slamming Andre the Giant, or when somebody had the grand idea to have Lawrence Taylor wrestle Bam Bam Bigelow.
Well, Don, you and I can hang out in the Nexus tent when you get kicked out of Diva's world. To relate back to the episode, I want you to answer the most pressing question I have from this episode was, at the end, whose tentacle was that? Was it Kang or was it Kodos?
I'm going to go with Kodos. Final answer.
I wrote down Kang. I wrote Kang.
That they, in order to exchange proteins, they have to hold hands. So basically it's both of them because they are in contact with each other and we don't know where one begins and the other ends.
Is that why you guys are always holding hands at cons?
And kissing on the mouth.
So let's go to Not It.
I know it's called Not It, but I kept writing down It Happens because it's funnier to me.
It's a better title. I liked Not It, like in the same way that like I watched a couple episodes from this season that were not Treehouse, and I liked it in the same sort of way. Like that was okay,
Well, were you high while you decided that?
Oh yeah, definitely. My wife says I laughed a lot the first time I watched Not It, so that took too much. Anyway, so no, As much as it's a complete kind of like the POOKADOok, right? Like it's the summary of the movies, it's the summary of the books, whatever you want to say. The 1,100 fucking page book. But they're at least creative with this one, and they add some stuff to it to make it more interesting to me, at least. I felt like there was more humor, or at least attempts at it, and it just wasn't as flat as the Treehouse episode was. Did you guys feel the same, or was it my edibles?
Yeah, no, I think it was cohesive. I like that, they were able to keep certain aspects of the story of it. At least it chapter 2, being 27 years later really lined up with them being 12 years old because Homer's 39, and that makes sense. I thought there was more weird nostalgia, like, the younger versions of like the crazy cat lady. But there were certain things that I would have changed. I'd be curious to know how you guys would have kind of cast the different roles in this. I think they did an okay job, but there's some things I would have changed.
My number one would be that Moe should have been in Comic Book Guy's role. That's established Simpsons lore. So
I thought Lenny, yeah, but Moe's good too. Like, I would have loved a chubby Lenny who grows up skinny because like everybody loves Lenny. And then my only thing as a Simpsons fan was like, oh, Skinner shouldn't have been there because he, wasn't originally from Springfield because his name is Armin Tamzarian, and that's just not who he is. So,
Super Intense Kid Chalmers was pretty great.
Oh yeah, that was the other thing. Like the names, like Comic Book Kid, like they didn't need to do any of that. It wasn't. Yeah. It didn't help. Who's that for? Is it for the children watching this? Like those kids probably didn't see it. I don't know. Like,
hey, CBG, I don't know. But again, I would have just cut him out of the episode, so it wouldn't have been an issue.
What was
somebody with a normal Crusto?
I would have went with just Krusty Wise. Why not? Like, just go full tilt right into it.
I thought it was weird. It could have just been Krusty. There was no reason to change it.
That's true. Odd. I like that they called it Kingfield instead of Springfield. A nice nod to the obvious choice.
I also like the signs. It's a good place to bury your children. And then 27 years later, why do people keep moving here? Fantastic.
That was my question in the film version of it, when there is that discussion. And it's like, oh yeah, people disappear here more than anywhere else in the world. And I'm like, maybe we need to get the fuck out of here then. If this is, it's just like if you said, oh, this is the place where the most shootings take place. Oh, that's a good reason for me to stay.
Right.
I liked it. I mean, it wasn't anything that blew me away, but it was kind of the thing that I talked about earlier, where it would be great if they swapped out Treehouse of Horror and just did one long story, as opposed to breaking up into 3 acts, because you might have been able to do a cool version of Westworld if you had done it longer, as opposed to jamming everything in. But they did have some funny nostalgia things in here, which obviously they're making fun of Stranger Things. They're making fun of the film version of it. They're making fun of a lot of these films and TV series that go out of their way to throw in what time period it is, but not be specific about the time period. It's the 80s. Is it 84? Is it 87? What fucking year is it? Because there's so much shit that doesn't match up. But when they are at the clubhouse and Homer grabs a Nintendo Power Glove, I laughed because I was poor. I didn't get to have one, but I remember wanting one. I was watching the Nightmare on Elm Street the films, with my daughter, and I can't remember which one, if it was Dream Warriors or if it was the Dream Master. But in one of the films, somebody grabs a Nintendo Power Glove to fight against Freddy. And
really?
Again, I'm laughing my ass. I remember the Nintendo Power Glove was being used because one of the guys played video games. It might have been like the 5th one instead of the 4th one. But he has a Nintendo Power Glove at one point, and I'm just laughing my ass off about it. And my daughter doesn't understand what's going on because she just thinks it's a glove. And I was like, babe, that was a glove that every kid I went to school with wanted. We knew one kid who had one. but we all wanted it. And she's like, well, what did it do? It was like, you just played video games with it. It's like, but was it like VR? Was it this? It's like, no, you just fucking held it in your hand, and then you would possibly push the buttons on the glove as you were playing. It's like, it was the stupidest thing ever when you look back on it. But of course, Freddy kills one of the guys in the video game by making him Mario jump into a bunch of bricks or some shit. I can't remember what it was, but he killed him that way. But yeah, the nostalgia that's thrown in here is funny to play around with.
Well, so my problem with this being like a Treehouse of Horror presents, like they've had episodes that were canon, or at least canon in the sense of it being a normal episode, that are better horror parodies than this. Like they did a Children of the Corn like spoof that was like great, and that was, I don't know, season 8 or 9, but like it's not something new that they're doing. They've always done things like this. I just think that it's still not gelling in the way it could.
I feel like Treehouse always gets more views than the rest of the season. And so I can't help but wonder, like, was this marketing going, well, if we put Treehouse on it, maybe people will watch it, you know? I don't know.
It's like the one time a year people watch the show.
Yeah. Yeah, it always consistently has higher ratings than the rest, so...
So in the episode they established, my question for you is, they established like the adult versions have jobs where Homer's like the bartender now, Moe is like this awful Jeff Dunham type ventriloquist.
That was kind of redundant, wasn't it?
Carl's an astronaut, Marge is a seltzer like CEO. They're confronting the things that, you know, they were afraid of from Crusto or Krusty Wise, whatever we're calling him. What is Comic Book Guy now? Is he a comic book salesman, or is he just an asshole? Because they never establish who he is in all of this.
He's just a guy protecting his secrets.
With his man bun?
Yes. His hair is full of secrets.
And sweet tarts.
Good for him.
That's a deep Simpsons reference. That's a deep Simpsons cut. The one person listening all the way through is going to be like, haha, I know that reference.
I'll say, ha ha. I know, overall, I thought this was fun. The weird thing to me, rewatched it. I watched Treehouse followed by Not It, right? And it was very strange coming out of Treehouse, where they were literally trying to do this nostalgia thing with the different Homers and the different whoever's. And then this episode's writing did it better just through how people made jokes. Like when Moe's like, oh, a child coffin costs the same as an adult coffin, and I overheard my parents pricing them. That isn't a joke I've seen from Moe in a very long time. Like that felt like all those good seasons back when, that kind of joke. And then just Homer saying, aw, I'm the one I wanted Marge to end up with. Like that's like that season 4 classic Homer for me. And I thought it was weird that the writing did it better in this episode.
You liked Moe learning his first fetish?
That's pretty good too, yeah. I was kind of surprised they didn't all go down in the sewer and take turns slapping each other.
Yeah, I was waiting for the orgy the whole movie, or the whole episode, and just it never... Nobody came, it never came, it was just...
Nobody came.
Exactly.
Oh my.
The best part was the end, though. Not Comic Book Guy dying, but actually having King and Kodos on screen. And bringing up my favorite Stephen King book, which is Tommyknockers. Put it in the maybe pile.
Anybody who's listened to our episode on It, I believe I went off on how much I hate that Steve can't write an ending half the time. And then how much I hate the ending of It, because they literally just bully Pennywise, It, whatever, until it quits. And I don't know, it just doesn't work for me. So I thought it was crazy that this parody had a better way of defeating the clown than the actual story does. Oh, I also liked the pie death.
Oh, with Jimbo?
Yeah. That's it. That's all I got.
That's a nice little jokes that still get thrown in.
So funny. So clever. not at all exhausting to rehash and watch. It really sucks too, because I love The Simpsons. I quote The Simpsons all the time, and I think about it, and I watch it, and then I watch the new episodes, and I'm just like, what the, like, you know, it's like when your favorite celebrities say crazy shit on the internet, and you're like, man, I really liked your old movies. Now I can't watch them anymore.
I mean, we've talked about it in past ones about whether it should be taken off the air or stop, or questioning why we're still doing this, you know, but we'll keep doing it because we're insane. And I don't know, man. I still don't see it ending anytime soon because it makes too much money.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do think they could do is they could announce the final episode and run it and get all of that audience attention, because no matter when you last watched, you want to see the finale, right?
Exactly.
And if they did that and then, you know, just kept making new episodes, nobody would fucking know. Who the hell has seen 750 episodes or whatever they're at?
Yeah, so like, what would you guys do for like Treehouse? What's a movie you haven't seen them riff on you'd want to see them riff on?
I want to see Lenny and Carl versus Evil. Yeah, really fast. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe the problem is that it's always The Simpsons. Maybe if these fucking episodes were about Carl, or they were about Dr. Hibbert or whoever, I don't fucking care, just somebody else, maybe that would help.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good idea.
Anyway.
My idea was like, you get Professor Frink to be like the crazy scientist. Because whenever they do crazy like Dr. Scientist stuff, it's always Dr. Nick. I think it'd be funny to do Professor Frink and do Human Centipede. And you put Lisa in the middle, so she has to eat meat. And then you could flank it with like a Millhouse in the back, and then the front. The front it would have to be somebody funny, you know, probably not somebody of Simpsons
comic book guy.
You don't want weird incest like that. No, I'm thinking like a mole man,
sea captain.
Ooh, a sea captain, Sideshow Mel. Any number of people, but yeah, just Professor Frink making a Human Centipede that's where my money's at. That's the 23-minute episode I want to see.
Although I gotta say, Dr. Nick would make more sense for Human Centipede, but it would be like he wasn't trying to do that.
Yeah. Or he's the one who comes and saves the day. I understand they already did Human Centipede on South Park, but I'd like to see a Simpsons take on it. Or the movie Teeth.
What about you?
And never mind. Go on.
Wow.
Like
so what about you, Don?
Maggie's teething in her vagina, and
okay. I'm gonna have to change.
Hey, Don. What about Homer doing Glorious?
Yeah, but it would be like a donut shop. It would be a donut hole that he's pursuing.
What if it's like Mississippi Burning, but it's Springfield instead of Mississippi?
Well, there are only like three black people in The Simpsons, and now I guess they're all being played by black voice actors.
You sound upset about that.
No. Well, I'm not upset about it, but I like some character. Okay, Simpsons people, and not fans. I mean, Simpsons people. Not
I have something Asian to say after this thought, but go on.
Okay, so when the protests and everything were happening in summer 2020, what people were asking for was accountability, police reform, and then we found ourselves in, hey, I know what we'll do. We won't have this character on the show anymore, or we won't have this appear. Oh, you know what? That episode of The Office where someone was in blackface, we're going to take it out. I'm like, okay.
Still on YouTube.
But this is what people were. I actually argue that it's funnier without the blackface now, because you're kind of questioning, like, who the fuck did Dwight call? And then you see Nate with black, like, ears. Like, it's funnier now because
it's the implication of blackface.
Yes. But I with Carl Carlson and Lou, I was watching newer episodes because my daughter was watching them on Disney Plus, and I'm like, what the fuck happened to Lou? What happened to Carl? Those aren't their voices. I don't like the way Carl sounds now. I don't like the way Lou, but because neither one of them was done in a demeaning way. Neither one of them was done in a stereotypical or generalized, over exaggerated, black effect with the way that they spoke. They were just black Simpsons characters, as opposed to Apu, where that's looking back on it, you're like, this is not a good look. And even some of the early Asian characters that they had, where it was Hank Azaria playing an Asian accent, like he was Mickey Rooney or something.
Half a minute for half an Asian.
So here's my half a minute for half an Asian for this episode. If you're gonna have black voice actors do the black characters, why aren't any Asian people doing the yellow characters?
Thank you.
Because 99% of those characters are yellow. That's all I'm saying. Somebody had to say that.
I hope they do something, not redeeming, because they never did anything that was bad. But I hope they do something that's a step above what they've been doing in recent years.
I don't think they need to keep doing this.
I think you do it now because it's expected, and people generally enjoy seeing what they will do. Not necessarily enjoying the execution, the outcome, but at least there's that idea of like, oh shit, what are they gonna do this year? You know what would have been great for them to do? Is the Unfriended. Well, you only had 2 Unfriended movies, but Unfriended, Ouija. They've done like Conjuring.
Happy Death Day.
Happy Death Day would be another good one.
What I would rather see is them like take the monorail episode, but like turn the monorail episode into a horror movie. Like not like Westworld or whatever. Just like make it a horror movie. Like take Mr. Plow and make it a horror movie. Like, that would be more interesting to me than the parodies.
I'd be down with that. That'd be interesting, at least.
Be something new.
I feel like Treehouse of Horror is basically like when Vince Vaughn did Psycho. What's the fucking point?
All right. Well, if anything, very nice to talk to you guys. It's painful as these episodes are, and how much I dread it every year. I'm always happy to hear from you guys.
This concludes another episode of TheNecronomicon.com with James Sabata, Donald Guillory, and Thomas Sexbot Brungart.